what this defendant told police at that time was that I told him to quit wiggling and don't go into that house, and he kept wiggling. So I shot him. And he shot him through the chest. 130 caliber round through the chest. I know in today's world, victims are just an inconvenience, but not to me and not to these.
And that's the assistant district attorney sitting there in Angola across the room from the man who's pleading to be set free. You know, when he committed this murder, he was under the age of 18 and he was sentenced to life in prison. But now because of Miller v. Alabama, he has a chance at parole, and we're about to watch that parole hearing. So with that, let's jump in.
So you are Melvin M DOC. You're classified as a first felony offender. You were sentenced August 19, 1996 to life for a second-degree murder in Ascension Parish, excuse me. Your parole eligibility date was August 1st, 2017. You don't earn good time. Mr. Mingo, is that your understanding? Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you answer Mr. Freeman's question, please?
Okay, Mr. Mingo, how old are you currently?
44,
And how long have you served on this sentence?
27 and a half years.
So how old were you when you committed this crime?
16.
Tell me a little bit about what happened that day. I understand y'all went down there to rob someone, brought a pretty good gang to you, and then looks like y'all ran into a pretty good gang too. So you tell me what happened, exactly what happened that day.
Well, two of my codees met two other guys who came on my codees involving with this crime. They came up with the idea to rob a guy from Ascension Parish, specifically Darrell, Louisiana, out of some drugs and money. It was brought to my attention by one of my codees. I agreed to go with him as a lookout guy. We got down there. One of my codees said he had to use the bathroom. So we stopped the car. My codee got out the car. And when he got out the car, we drove around the corner to drop me off where they wanted me to be in position there to be the lookout. While I'm standing there, I seen two of my codees coming around the corner with Mr. Ronald Williams. Then I seen Mr. Charles Owens running towards them at a fast pace with his hand under his shirt. And in that moment, I panicked and I ran up on Mr. Charles Owens with a gun, told him don't move. Seen some other guys coming in our direction, so I took Mr. Charles and brought him on side of the house. While I'm standing there with him, we heard a gunshot go off, and I think one of my codees came over there trying to see where I was at. And when he discovered I was on side of the house with Mr. Charles Owens, he called my name. When I looked back, that's when Mr. Charles grabbed a gun. So a struggle went off between us with the gun. And when the gun went off, I panicked, broke out running, shooting scared, trying to make it back to the car. When we got around the corner, I was scared, just frantically shooting the gun, trying to get back home safe.
So this crime was drug related. What kind of drugs were you using at that time?
What kind of drug I was using?
Mm-hmm.
I was only smoking marijuana at the time.
All you was doing was smoking marijuana. Had you drank anything that day?
No, sir.
Just smoked marijuana.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Have you received any treatment while you've been in prison for your marijuana?
Yes, sir. I attended substance abuse.
Okay. Do you think you have a drug or alcohol problem?
At the time, I didn't think that I had one, but when I became knowledgeable over the years, I recognized that I did.
So at what time did you realize you had shot the victim?
At the time, I didn't notice that I realized that I shot him at all. When we struggled over the gun and it went off, I just broke out running. I never looked. I never noticed he was shot or anything. When I got control of the gun, I broke out running and just went to shooting the other direction, just trying to make
What kind of gun did you have?
assault rifle.
Okay, okay, you've been arrested, I think, what, about 12 times, most of them gun charges?
I can't recall. This was a juvenile.
But you were arrested for gun charges as a juvenile.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do you do at Angola? What's your job?
I work in the security office as a office clerk.
I see you boxed for 19 years on the boxing team.
Yes, sir.
Did you have a anger problem growing up?
I did.
Okay, did you take some classes at Angola to try to deal with that anger problem?
Yes, sir. I attended anger management.
Okay, you also took Cage Your Rage?
Yes, sir.
You got your GED while you've been in prison?
Yes, sir. I have my GED, and I also have a certification in pesticide. I passed a pesticide exam for certification for private and commercial.
You ever taken any victim awareness classes?
Yes, sir. I took a victim awareness and I took the accountability letter writing class also.
So you've taken a number of classes. I see you with Malachi Dad. How do you like that program?
It was enlightening. Also thinking for a change. 100 hours pre-release. I took a chemical dependency class. Also helped me understand about the triggers of drugs, and I took a cultivating compassion class also.
So what is going to be your transition plan when you get out?
I boxed for 18 years, so I became good with my hands over the years, and I'm a fast learner. But my passion is to take what I learned through boxing, how it disciplined me over the years, and I want to use that because I have grandkids, and I want to make sure that they don't make the decision that I made, and I want to dedicate my life to not only them, but using my life as well and my skills to help others, because I can actually honestly say that boxing actually saved my life in prison. And I know the discipline of it. I know not only the skill set of the physical, but the mental aspect of it as well, the discipline part. And I want to use that to help others as well that may be struggling in their life.
So what about AA and NA? You going to attend any of that when you get out of prison?
I would like to.
All right, where are you going to live?
With my daughter.
How are you gonna make money? I mean, I understand the boxing and working with your grandkids and all of that, but how are you gonna make a living? What can you do?
I have a friend by the name Corona. She have her own construction company. She's willing to hire me up if I'm granted relief. I also have a friend that works with a HVAC company in Baton Rouge. I have a twin brother that's been working in plants around the state for the last 15 years. So I'm more than sure they will be willing to hire me up if I'm granted relief.
So you had your same job in Angola for the last 10 years, right?
Yes, sir.
Correct? Okay, so you must be pretty good at it, huh?
Yes, sir.
I see you have no mental health problems, your risk is low. You have a good disciplinary record. You've only had 7 disciplinary write-ups, and the last one was in 2010. You gave a guard some money to go get you some gin.
Yes, sir.
So you did drink, and you are probably borderline alcoholic. I'm guessing, right?
No, sir.
You don't think you have a problem with me?
I admit I had a problem at the time in dealing with that incident. I did admit to the warden when I spoke to him about it that I did get a guard the money for the alcohol. When he came on the investigation for it, the warden came and spoke to me about it. It was put on investigation. My trustee status was suspended. I was suspended for boxing for 60 days, and upon investigation, I was reinstated after 60 days with my trustee status, and I was reinstated to box again.
Why should I take a chance on you, Mr. Mingo? Come on, convince Mr. Freeman that I should take a chance on the man I'm looking at today. What's the difference from that 16-year-old that picked up an assault rifle and might have not intended on shooting nobody, but I believe y'all fired tons of rounds according to the rest reports. That was a pretty good gun battle out
Well, the difference is I was 16 years old. I can honestly admit I was a kid operating from a position of anger, no sense of direction, poor, guidance as a child. But I'm 44 years old today. I have kids of my own. I have grandkids. I'm a man that operates from a position of love, always looking to make, meaningful and healthy relationships. And I know that what I done been through in life in prison, what my mentors and taught me, my spiritual advisors, the people I done became friends with, I know I'm a man today that can get out there and do better and make a difference in people's lives. And I know I won't never put myself in a position like this again because I've been down this path before. I know how dark and lonely it is. And that's not who I want to be no more. The person I am today is the person that I want to be. I'm happy with that. I found a nice relationship with meaningful people. I have a beautiful relationship, personal relationship with God, my family, and that's how I want to operate from this day forward.
there. Okay. All right. You have opposition from the sheriff and local law enforcement. You also have opposition from the family. And you have some support from your family. So I'll be ready to make my decision when it's my time.
Okay. Mr. Roche has some questions.
Good morning, Mr. Mingo.
How you doing, Mr. Roche?
It's fine. Mr. Mingo, it's August 1996. You're 16 years old. Where do you get an assault weapon from?
August of 1996.
That's the day that you were arrested. You were 16 years old and you had an assault weapon. Where did you get that weapon from?
We bought it from the streets.
Thank you, sir.
You, Mr. Mingo, you mentioned if you were successful, your plan would be to live with your daughter.
Yes, ma'am. But I plan on going through the parole project first because they have a program that I like to be involved with over there. And after
Where's your daughter?
she live in Addis, Louisiana.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Warden Ambo, is there anything you can add?
everything that he said is true. He's also one of our trustees that we can rely on to do any project that we have to do. If a hurricane come or a flood come, he's one of the first ones to do sandbagging and stuff. So he has been a model offender since that last report in 2010.
Thank you. We'd like to hear from the parole project now, Mr. Huntley.
Andrew Huntley with Louisiana Parole Project, speaking before the board today to inform you that Melvin is a client with members of our staff. Thank you.
Then we'll hear from your family. Can we hear from Miss Sierra Austin?
Hello, I'm Sierra Austin. Melvin Mingo is my cousin, and I have seen a tremendous change in Melvin over the years of his incarceration. Our relationship has always been super close, and we come from a tight-knit family, and we're more like siblings than we are cousins. And I would definitely agree with him going in as a 16-year-old and now being an adult or whatever. I've seen a tremendous change as far as his mindset, the way he speaks, the way he have conversations. So I would be willing to put my life on the line to know that I've seen a change to where if the board grants his parole, that route he once took, he will not take. And he has my full support in whatever is needed.
Ma'am, thank you. We appreciate your remarks this morning. Mr. McGee.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Ashton McGee. Melvin is my older brother. I can say over the years, like we've kind of kept in constant communication with each other, and it's been very encouraging to see his growth, his maturity, to see the level of accountability in which he lives with. And that's one of the things that when he and I speak, he's always very upbeat, very, very positive about his situation and identifying those things and owning that accountability for his actions and then for the growth that he's experienced over the past years of his incarceration. So for me as his brother, I've always taken that to heart. I've always even used some of the stuff that he and I talk about when I'm mentoring young kids, whenever I'm even in my ministry, encouraging people to have a certain level of accountability, because those things are gonna progress you into changing, progress you into becoming a better person, someone who's more reliable, and someone that can be of a good resource to other people as you are transparent through your progressions and the things that you've experienced and encountered in your life. And that's one of the things that I pride myself on as his brother, because I can always say that even when I was working in juvenile detention, that I would use his life experience as an example of transparency and positivity to let those young men know that this isn't a final destination for you, that there is an opportunity for you to become a better person, for you to become a resource and a source for other people who have made those type of life decisions, but through accountability, through change and owning up to those situations is something that I've been very proud as his brother to see him develop, embrace, and just possess over the last few years. His character and his integrity in those situations has been very, very vital in his growth.
All right, thank you, sir. So now we'll hear from the opposition. Is the district attorney on Angola?
Yes, I am.
We'd like to hear from Mr. Babin. So Mr. Mingo, there we go.
It's okay.
Morning.
Chairman Robinson, members of the board, I rise in opposition to this parole. I want to get the record straight from some things that I heard first. Number one, I just heard that he owns this and has taken responsibility, but the set of facts that he gave you is not the same set of facts that he gave the police in a statement with his mother 27 years ago. Maybe time has taken its toll on his memory, but he told you he got out of that car as a lookout. Well, he exited that vehicle with a 30 caliber assault rifle. That's a hell of a position for a lookout to be in. He also told you that Charles Owens was in a struggle, and during the struggle, some shots were fired. That's not exactly what happened. He was in a place of concealment. Charles Owens was going towards where this gunfight was with Williams. He stepped out from cover. He held that 30 caliber rifle to Mr. Charles Owens and said, "Get down." Mr. Charles Owens got down. Mr. Charles Owens was next to a house that was on pillars, and what this defendant told police at that time was that I told him to quit wiggling and don't go into that house, and he kept wiggling. So I shot him, and he shot him through the chest. One 30 caliber round through the chest. I know in today's world, victims are just an inconvenience, but not to me and not to these. When he shot that kid underneath that house, his father had to help him drag his son's body with his chest blown out from under that house and assist the first responders who responded to give aid. His family has given you their opinion. Some of them could not be located. I couldn't locate them myself. I think probation and parole, the officers do a good job of finding folks, but every person that was contacted objects to his release. Mr. Owens' father never got over this event, ever. Never got over the loss of his son. Never got over the loss of his son, and he died a short time later. Family attributes that to the loss of his son and the trauma that he went through. Mr. Owens' brothers and sisters live with this every day. They still live with this every day. He may have gotten his life together, and he might be this and he might be that, but they never have a chance. They never have a chance. We don't have things like the Parole Project or the Innocence Project or whatever project. All we have is victims and me. That's it. But I drove 2 hours today to tell you that I object, the sheriff objects, law enforcement down there objects, and the victims object to what was done. And just to say, never mind, I'll do better is woefully inadequate. Whenever this individual was questioned, he gave a statement. And in that statement, he told, with his mother present, he was a minor at the time, he was 16, his mother was present. And he gave a pretty clear account of why they were there. This wasn't a situation where he was there because he had to be. This wasn't there because he was there because his mother brought him there. This wasn't, the reason he was there was to commit an armed robbery. And as this went down, they met with resistance. So I strongly ask you to look at the facts. I ask you to look at those victim statements. And I drove down here, up here today, just to tell you that what our position is, what our victim's position is, and that we oppose any early release. I appreciate your time, Chairman Renato. It's good to see you again. The other two gentlemen, it's been a long time. Thank you for having me. And I apologize for driving to Angola. My letter said it was going to be conducted in Angola, and I guess I'm showing my age because most parole hearings that I was a part of, you guys sat on bunk on a panel, and we all appeared. So if I procedurally done wrong, that's what my letter said was going to be here. So I showed up here. If I did it, I'll do whatever I had to do to make my point known to you. And thank you.
We do appreciate your participation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to take your chair.
That's okay.
All right, Mr. Miko, is there a you would like to make to the panel before we turn it over to your counsel?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to take this time to apologize to the Owens family, the community that my crime was committed in. And over the years, I come to realize that this is a stain on my life that I'll never be able to take away. This is something that I'll never be able to undo. And regardless of what accolades I may reach in life, whatever success or whatever it may be, it still will never be enough to get over the fact of knowing how much damage and pain I caused to the Owens family with taking their loved one's life. And I couldn't possibly imagine what I put them through over the years. And just knowing the person I am today and hearing just how much damage I caused over the years and the longevity of it tears me apart, because I know that's not the person I am today, despite being that lost kid at that time. And I just like to take this time to just apologize for all the damage and pain I caused them over the years.
All right, thank you, sir. Miss Cole.
Good morning. I would just like to remind the board that Melvin committed this offense when he was 16 years old. He was very impressionable, susceptible to peer pressure, and it goes a little bit deeper than that because he was searching for this familiar bond that he didn't have his entire life. His father was physically present and his mother was emotionally absent. I'm sorry, his father was physically absent and his mother was emotionally absent. And ultimately, he settled for a bond with his friends that led him down the wrong path. But for the last 27 years, Melvin has spent that time well. He has had a bad experience that has yielded great results because prison has put him in a place where he has flourished and he has matured into the man that he is today. Melvin has always looked to older men, but this time they didn't let him down. His mentors and spiritual advisors held him accountable for his actions, and they encouraged him to join church and be involved. His programming gave him a new perspective on life and taught him to respect himself and others, how to manage his anger, and how his actions have affected others. He has educated himself, and even though he struggled with getting his GED, he had that champion spirit in him, and he kept pushing, and he was disciplined and he didn't stop until he got his GED. His job experiences have instilled in him discipline, responsibility, and work ethic. He's currently involved in a job designed to be at a security office where he's been for the last 10 years. And he, as Warden Ambo stated, he's a model citizen and a model inmate, and he regularly volunteers when he's needed. And most importantly, his record reflects this progress towards his rehabilitation. Most young men, when they come to prison as teens, they have a hard time adjusting, and that usually reflects in their disciplinary reports. But Melvin has quite remarkably only had 7 write-ups in 27 years. And he's also been a trustee for the last 14 years, which is almost unheard of for a juvenile lifer. He has a great reentry plan where he'll be living with his daughter in a new city where he can have a fresh start. He has great work experiences, and he's great with his hands, so that he has no issue showcasing his workmanship once he's released. He wants to also give back to his community. He understands that his actions were done when he was a child, and he wants to reach out to at-risk youth to share his experience and hoping that they can get on a better track. And he also wants to use his boxing experiences to raise awareness for alternative outlets. So in closing, Melvin has literally grown up in prison. He's done everything to rehabilitate himself. Age, time, and programming have matured him into the man that comes before you today. In his letter, Captain Pierre stated that Melvin has grown from being a misguided juvenile to an adult with solid morals, principles, and ambitions to better himself. Major William Smith similarly stated that he does not foresee a situation where Melvin will ever end up on the wrong side of law. And these are people who know him. They've known him for the last 10 years, and they've worked in an environment where they can recognize whether a person will reoffend. And they have confidence that Melvin will do great once he is released. Melvin has proven that he's done the work, and he now requests that this board recognizes his accomplishments over the last 27 years and grant him release under any conditions deemed necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cole. So that concludes our proceedings, and we are prepared to vote. We'll start with Mr. Freeman.
Okay, Mr. Mingo, you know, you're still a very young man. You're 44 years old. You committed this offense at 16 and a half, which I know growing up in prison from 16 had to be very tough on you. And I really do appreciate the accomplishments you've made. I think that you are very close to be ready to be granted parole, probably in the next hearing or so. But at this time, I still think for murder, 27 years just isn't quite enough, so I'm going to deny.
Mr. Rushing.
Mr. Mingo,
Yes, sir.
you are a Miller case. And when the Supreme Court handed down its decision, and when Louisiana had a decision in the Montgomery case, it sort of specified what I needed to look for. I needed to look for full rehabilitation and maturity in the offender that I was hearing his parole here up here before me. This morning, I see a person I think is fully rehabilitated, good programs, positive remarks from the warden, said to the first one to line up for volunteer work. And I listened intensively this morning, and I heard a mature individual who recognized what he did at the age of 16 was wrong.
I don't know. What do you think? But let's go watch his 2024 parole hearing and see if he has a different outcome.
His full rehabilitation. I see this with maturity. I have positive remarks from Warden Ambrose. Excellent transition plan, starting with the Louisiana Parole Project and with your daughter. Good programs. In the age in which you committed this crime, you were 16. You were very attuned to wanting to belong, and you wanted to have some companionship, and you probably didn't get it at home, so you were with your friends. Based on everything that I've just mentioned, my vote is to grant your early release with the following conditions. A curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. I want you to do some community service with at-risk youth. You were 16 when you committed this crime. If you're following what's happening today, youth with guns and murders every other day, I want you to get with your parole officer or your pastor, and I want you to talk to disadvantaged youth and try to steer them in the right direction. And I also want you to attend NAAA meetings at the direction of your parole officer. Good luck.
All right, Mr. Mingo. You've done some really good programming, I see. You started working probably before you knew you were going to have a parole eligibility day. I do see in the record the impact that the victims are still experiencing, the victim's family. You know, I think you're on the right track. I just don't think it's today. For me, uh, in deference to the victim of the opposition that's been expressed, my vote today is to deny you parole. I will encourage you, as Mr. Freeman has, reapply when you're eligible to do so, and stay on the right track. Good luck to you, sir. You got 2 votes to deny, 1 vote that was favorable. So the outcome of today's proceeding is that your parole will be denied. So good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. We're gonna go. And who else is surprised? Mr. No Way Roche actually was the sole grantor. Isn't that interesting? And maybe it's because the victims weren't there in person. I don't know, right? Sometimes Mr. No Way Roche surprises, but to think that you would get the 2 denials. Anyways, enough of me. We are about to flash back to the present day, kind of. You know, this hearing, it took place June 15th, 2022, but now we're going to go flash forward to the end of 2024 to see his next chance at parole. And they are taking this hearing out at LSU. So it's a different kind of setup. Do you think that he's going to get his big break this time? Let's find out.
Mr. Mingo, as stated, your DOC number is 367430. You're currently serving a life sentence. You were sentenced in August of 1996 to a life sentence for a second-degree murder conviction. You do have a parole eligibility date, which is passed. It's August 1st, 2017. Is that information correct, Mr. Mingo?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Take a moment now and tell us why you think we ought to vote for you today.
Well, I understand that you don't have to grant me parole, but when I was incarcerated at the age of 16, I come to prison with an 8th grade education. No discipline, no purpose. But since my incarceration, I committed myself to making myself better since the crime that I committed. I now have my GED. I have over 25 certifications. I have 4 certifications in hazmat, pesticide control, and I did everything that I possibly could to do and make myself a better person, not only for me, but for my family as well. I have kids and grandkids, and I hold myself full accountable for making sure that they never go through this and put another family through this here, what I have done. And if I am granted the opportunity, the goal that I've set for myself, the discipline that I have now, and my purpose in life, I'll continue to apply them tools in my life to make sure that I'm successful upon my release and granted release.
All right. Thank you, sir. Captain, what can you tell us about Mr. Mingo?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming to visit us today. As you all know, the State Police Barracks is a very unique setup. We have the ability to get to know these gentlemen on a level unlike most other institutions. And what I'm saying right now goes to the character of both of the men that y'all will see this morning. Mr. Mingo and Mr. Goodwin are 2 of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life, and they do their jobs with gratitude. If you have the opportunity to have a personal conversation with either one of these gentlemen, you'll see they're not the people they were when they came to prison. I know that they both committed crimes, and I know that they had a debt to pay, but I also know the people that sit next to me. And this man right here is an amazing person, not just because of what he does here, but he's an amazing person to get to know. They had a gentleman, if you will allow me to tell a quick story, had a gentleman come here who thought maybe when he got here and he saw Mingo's last name that his victim was related. And that guy went up to him and tried to talk to him. And instead of Mingo doing like a lot of people incarcerated would do, he didn't brush him off. He took the time to get to know the young man, and they conversate every day. And it meant a great deal to him, and it meant a great deal to me that someone who had nothing to do with what that guy was talking about, took the time to not only help him get past some hurt that was in his past, but they help him transition into being in a place like this. We are very unique. We do everything we can to set these gentlemen up to prepare for this day, the opportunity to be a productive member of society. And I have no doubt that if y'all grant Twin this opportunity, Mr. Mingo, everybody calls him Twin, but if y'all grant this opportunity to him, I'm 100% sure that he will be successful.
State your remarks. Now we'll hear from the folks who want to speak in support. First, we'd like to hear from Mr. Hunley.
Andrew Hunley with Louisiana Parole Project, appearing before the board today to confirm that Melvin is a client of Louisiana Parole Project. As this board's well aware, Melvin is parole eligible based on Miller versus Alabama and Act 277 of the 2017 legislative session. Melvin had a parole hearing 2.5 years ago that we attended and supported him on. As the board's aware, he was one vote short of being granted parole at that time. We remain in Melvin's corner.
You got 2 votes to deny, 1 vote that was favorable. So the outcome of today's proceeding is that you correctly denied.
For the same reasons we were initially with him, based on the amount of time that he served and what he's done with that time. We feel like he has prepared himself to be a good member of the community when he comes home, based on his record of rehabilitation, based on his commitment to programs and education during his incarceration. But even more importantly, since that denial 2.5 years ago, as this board's aware, oftentimes people will falter after their denials. Melvin, on the other hand, kept growing. Since his denial, he was placed at State Police Trustee Barracks, where he became a Class A trustee. As was mentioned, he has gained several certifications, including hazmat and pesticide licenses that he would be able to use for employment purposes upon release. Our plan as an organization, if he is granted parole, would be to have Melvin come to our program in Baton Rouge and complete phase 1 of our program. Long story short, our organization's totally committed to Melvin's reentry and helping him with his transition with any conditions that the board may deem appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Ms. Sierra Austin.
Good morning. I'm Sierra Austin. On behalf of our family and friends, I come to speak on Melvin Mingo's behalf. I'd like to first say Melvin has an amazing support system, as you can see from the amount of people that's here today present in this room. Over the years, I've watched Melvin grow, not only for himself, but for his children and family as well. He has always maintained a relationship with his family. Melvin has a great support system when coming home. He has work lined up for him, as well as a stable place to live. We, his family and friends, plan to support him in any way possible, even if he goes to his dad's in Georgia. We're only a phone call and a drive away. We understand that a life was taken, and for that, we as his family and support system are sorry from the bottom of our hearts. We also lost Melvin from our family and our daily lives. I know it doesn't compare, but I know he's sorry as well, and it wasn't his intention. We ask that you see what we see in him and allow him to have a chance at parole.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We appreciate your remarks. And then we have Sean Toussaint.
Good morning. My name is Sean Toussaint, and I'm speaking on behalf of Melvin Mingo. Just like Melvin, I made a terrible decision as a teenager, and I took a life. I was given a life sentence without a possibility of parole for my crime, which I committed at 17 years old, and I went to Angola. To say I was scared would be an understatement. When I arrived at Angola, Melvin was already there. He stepped up to make sure I was okay and helped me adjust. Together with some of the other juvenile lives, we made a decision. We decided that we would not allow ourselves to die in prison, the same person we were when we committed our crimes. We would use whatever tools that was given to us to better ourselves and do it. Melvin was already well on his way to changing when I arrived. He was already training in boxing. When we began to have the opportunity to take programming and finish our education, we did that as a group, Melvin included. We held each other accountable to better ourselves. Together, we stayed out of trouble. We finished our education. We took programming, and we grew from troubled teens to become great men. We did this with no idea that we would ever get an opportunity to go home. I can say all this confidently, as this very audience has some juvenile life like Melvin and like myself, that came before this board to show growth and rehabilitation, and that we are no longer the same kids that committed these crimes that we were given a second chance. Today, because this board saw the change in us, we are now fathers, homeowners, employers, business owners, and much more. We pay our taxes, we pray, we help each other, and we never forget the ones we left behind. The success we have today, Melvin is a part of that success because he helped us become successful on our journey. For 26 years, Melvin and I grew up together. He helped me on so many ways adjusting to prison. We kept each other focused, we encouraged each other, we never let each other give up on our goals. We all did this for each other. And today we are here to express to this board that we are still here for him, to help him remain focused and not get discouraged, to help him adjust to the world, just like he helped me adjust when I entered that door. We are here to support him in any way we can because none of us take this opportunity for granted. This is who we were for each other while we were incarcerated, and this is who we remain to be. Thank you for believing in me and believing in us, because we can do better for the better. I am here because the same change the Lord saw in me and in us and granted us relief exists in Melvin. And our prayers are that this board sees him and grant him relief. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Hutchinson, we'd like to hear from you now.
Good morning, board. As you know, Melvin has been incarcerated for 3 decades now. He's far removed from the 16-year-old he was at the time he committed the crime. At just 5'4" tall, Melvin has jumped through large hurdles. Like he said, when he entered prison, he had an 8th grade education. But what I think is important is that he fought from 2005 to 2021 to obtain his GED. Now, I'm not sure if everybody is familiar with the process to obtain your GED, but you can take the test, and over time, if they determine that you have not made enough progress, you'll be taken out of the program and have to reapply. Melvin did this from 2005 to 2021, not seeking a waiver, but wanting to actually obtain his GED. As Mr. Huntley stated, Melvin comes before this board because of Miller. And there are 3 things that Miller talks about when discussing juvenile offenders, and that's their lack of maturity, and their vulnerability or susceptibleness to negative influences, which we always can see were readily available at the time of the crime. But the last thing that Miller talks about is that character is not well formed in juvenile offenders, that they will likely not stay the same person that they were at the time that they committed the crime, and that they can and do change. And I believe that we see that in Melvin. And that's why when we look at juvenile offenders, we look for their rehabilitation and their maturity. And some of those things that we look at is their institutional compliance. In 30 years, Melvin has 7 write-ups. That's unheard of, and that's likely why he was such a good candidate to go to the barracks. The officer that spoke discussed how he believed Melvin would be 100% successful should he be released. And if you look inside that packet, there are numerous letters from individuals at the state police barracks who also feel the same. And that community is very small. As you know, the barracks can only hold less than 2% of the incarcerated population. So they're very particular in who they take in. You'll be able to talk to Melvin today about boxing and what the difference between boxing and fighting, and the discipline and the sacrifice that it requires, and how he took those skills and moved them into learning how to better himself. That same discipline, that same sacrifice in his work ethic, in his substance abuse, in his relationships with his family, all those are present in Melvin today, and all of them prove his growth and rehabilitation. He has a strong reentry plan through the Louisiana Parole Project, and he will not be residing in Louisiana. Additionally, we will be able to support him in transferring his pesticide license to Georgia. They do have reciprocity with Louisiana, so we will be able to bring that over, but he already has employment with United Farmers. I believe that information was sent over to you, but he has many options. He has an immense amount of family here to support him. And as we know, individuals that go in as juveniles come back into the world as adults. And that support is immensely important. And Melvin has an abundance of it. He also has an abundance of support from juvenile lifers who, like him, have come out and done well, as Mr. Toussaint has said. And they are here to support him as he supported them when they entered prison. And so for all these reasons, the reasons within the brief, and when you get to opportunity to talk to Mr. Mingo, we ask that you believe in him also and provide him a second chance. And I am available to clear up any questions or concerns at the end if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Mr. Mingo, your case has been assigned to Mr. Byra. Would you answer his questions, please?
Good morning. Before I start with questions, I've got to put a little summary of the offense on the record. Mr. Mingo and 5 other individuals traveled from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to Darrow, Louisiana on October 3rd, 1994. The purpose of the trip was to arm rob an individual named Claude Owens of drugs and money. At approximately 3 a.m., Mingo and other members of the group were dropped off to be lookouts. The robbery did not go as planned, as there were people present in the street at the time. Mingo ran into Charles Owens, the victim, and while holding a rifle on him, Mingo made him lay down on the ground. Mingo shot him at point blank range with the rifle while he was trying to retreat under the house to shield himself. Mingo was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence for that crime. Why did you shoot Mr. Owens and not just let him crawl under the house and hide?
Well, that night that the robber was playing, a friend of mine named Kendrick Mills came to me and told me about this robber that he had playing with some other guys that was from that area. The robber, a drug dealer by the name of Claude Gray. And as a friend, he asked me to go with him, and I agreed. And on our way there, we got there. Kendrick said that he had to use the bathroom, so they let him out the car. And the other guy, I can't remember which one it was giving us instructions about what he wanted our road to be as lookouts. And when he let us out the car, if I'm not mistaken, a truck that was right there that we shielded ourselves behind. And when Kendrick and Ronald Delos came around the corner with the other victim that was shot, Mr. Ronald Williams, I seen Mr. Charles Owens running in their direction with his hand under his shirt. So I approached him with the rifle. And I brought him on the side of the house to get him out of the way from the other guys that was in that area. And seconds later, gunshots started to be fired. And when I looked, Mr. Owens attempted to grab the gun, and we had a tussle over the gun. And the gun discharged and fired, and I shot Mr. Charles Owens. And I broke out running back towards the car, and we left. And minutes later, we was arrested by Gunnersville Police Department.
All right. I see that at your last hearing, they recommended that you take victim awareness classes again, but I don't see in the record that that was completed. Did you do that again since the last hearing?
Since my last hearing, I was transferred to the police barracks. And when the program was about to get started, I don't know what it was with the complications of it, but I was required to take it. But they don't have that program here, it's not implemented yet, but I was required to take it.
Did you take any more classes since the last hearing?
Yes, sir. Since I've been here, I have took hazmat, which I acquired 2 certifications in hazmat, and I have 3 certifications in substance abuse, AA and NA. And I'm also the secretary of the Toastmasters Club here.
All right.
Mr.
Also,
Darrell, speak to the victim awareness class. We had a gentleman working here from DOC who was getting ready to start that, and then he took a different job. It took a little while for them to get another person here to teach the class, and he had no training in that. We are still working on getting someone to teach the class like victim awareness, but we don't have anybody to do it yet.
all right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Also, for the record, it needs to be noted that you are a true first offender. And that's all the questions I had.
Mr. Mingo,
Yes, ma'am.
there were 5 individuals who were involved in this crime. 2 of them have passed away, one after he was paroled, another while he was in prison. One is currently on parole. One was paroled and returned to custody in 2014. But of all of those individuals, all of your co-defendants, they received 30 years or less for that crime. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You're the only one that received life, and that's because they matched your weapon with the weapon found, the bullet found in the victim. Is that what, am I getting this all correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you've been at the barracks since 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Captain, would you share a little bit about how people are selected for the barracks duty?
Yes, ma'am. It goes by a couple of different ways. Sometimes we get recommendations from wardens or assistant wardens at certain facilities. Sometimes the individuals write us letters. Twing was recommended from Angola. We went to interview him. Several of the assistant wardens, deputy wardens spoke on his behalf. And one of the people in the classification who we value her opinion a lot because she deals with the guys mostly every day, recommended him and told us that he would be a great fit for our program. So when we talked to him, we got that same feeling. It's a very difficult program to be in. I think Ms. Hutchinson spoke to the fact that I think it's less than 1% actually of incarcerated individuals in the state of Louisiana get to come here. They write letters, we review their criminal history, we interview them, we check medical, and after that, we talk to the people who they work with every single day to get their take on how the individual is and how they would, whether or not that they believe they'd be a good fit for our program. Twin got all positives. Nobody said anything that would prevent us from wanting to bring him to our program. And so it's a difficult process to get here. Sometimes it takes up to 6 months for someone to be vetted to get into the program. So to be here, it speaks a lot to the individuals. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. There are people who make it through the cracks and don't survive, but it's a challenging program to get into.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Mingo, I was sat on your panel in 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think it was me who recommended the victim awareness class. I mean, I voted to deny. In my notes say this on that vote sheet. Your version of the story were inconsistent with the statements on circumstances of the crime. You had strong opposition from law enforcement, the district attorney, and the victims, and that opposition is still there. And now we have also the Attorney General's office has weighed in, and they're also opposed. But I did say Mr. Mingo is encouraged to stay on track and reapply when eligible to do so, and you've done that. And I was concerned about the victim awareness because I didn't see it in the record either, but Captain Washington has explained that. We did also encourage you then to participate, if you could, in an accountability letter program. Have you done that? Or do it
Yes,
available?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Renas, I have victim awareness from Angola, and I also have the victim accountability letter writing class from Angola as well.
Okay, thank you. And I noted a notation by the district attorney in the most recent parole investigation, and it says that office questions your level of rehabilitation when as late as court filings in 2020 claim innocence. Can you comment on that?
Could you say it again?
Okay, the DA questions your level of rehabilitation when as late as court filings in 2020 you claim innocence.
I don't recall that, Ms. Renas, and since the day we was arrested, even in the police report, I admitted to my part in that crime of taking Mr. Charles Owen's life, and I never recall saying that I was innocent for killing Mr. Charles because I accepted my responsibility for that, and I knew it was no way that I could possibly prove that I was innocent, so I would never have took that approach with that matter.
Okay, well, I appreciate you clearing that up for us. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Byron. Ms. Levitt.
So, Mr. Mingo, reflecting on that time, you know, we hear a lot from other people about you, but I want to hear again in your own words how you feel about what happened that day and its impact on the victim's family. So could you tell me in your words how you feel about what happened that day and its impact on the family?
When I think about when I was arrested at the age of 16, as I see here the day before y'all, almost a 50-year-old man, I had a lot of time to reflect on my actions, and I also had time to reflect on what Mr. Babin said in my last hearing about Mr. Owens living with the grief of losing his son until he passed away. And as a father with a daughter who was raped, it was a privilege for me to be there for her through them trying times and tough days, for her to be able to console her. And I regret that I never got the opportunity to tell Mr. Owens how sorry I was for not giving, for taking that opportunity away from him, of being able to be there for his son to console him, because I took that opportunity away from him by taking Mr. Charles Owen's life. And that's something that I regret. That's something I'm truly sorry for, and that's something that'll be with me forever. That I never got a chance to say that I'm sorry for all the pain and trauma that I caused the Owens family and their community as well.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other questions. Is the panel prepared to vote? Mr. Byron?
Board, may I please clear up some things?
Yes, ma'am.
Um,
Go ahead, Ms. Hutchinson.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. Victim awareness was taken in 2019. The victim accountability letter was taken in November of 2021. Just so the board is aware, the Louisiana Parole Project has obtained the curriculum for victim impact, listen, and learn. If the board were to grant Mr. Mingo's release, we could provide him with that program before he ICOTS to Atlanta and provide the board with a certificate for that program. It would be conducted by our licensed social worker at the Parole Project. And regarding the crime itself, and I'm not sure if y'all have access to it, but on page 9 of my brief, I do provide a brief transcript, a brief summary from the transcript from the actual hearing for Mr. Mingo, where Mr. Felix Green, who was the only eyewitness to the actual shooting, states when he testifies against Mr. Mingo that he saw the man grab for the gun and pull it when it went off, indicating that there was actually a struggle at the time. Additionally, I do have a copy of Mr. Mingo's post-conviction relief from 2020. The claims cited in that post-conviction relief were not for any actual innocence claims, but rather petitioner was denied a state constitutional right for judicial review because the petitioner had ineffective assistance at counsel when they failed to file his motion of appeal. So he did not get the opportunity to have his direct appeal. So that was his 2020 post-conviction relief that was filed in the courts. So not necessarily an actual innocence claim, but just the inability to access the next level, which is his direct appeal on his second-degree murder conviction. So those were just the things that I wanted to clear up before the board voted. And if y'all have any other questions, I'm available. Thank you.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you. Mr. Byron.
Well, like's already been stated, we have strong law enforcement opposition and the DA writing letters in opposition. We have, which we hadn't heard yet either, is strong victim opposition, although none of them are here today. They all live in all kind of different states, and they have spoke to the VAC and voiced strong opposition to parole release. And I believe this was a violent and senseless crime committed while attempting to commit an armed robbery. I also believe that you haven't served enough time yet on a life sentence to be released. However, I commend you on your behavior while in prison. I commend you on your placement at the state police barracks. That says a lot about you, like they said. So, but today I cannot vote to grant you release today, but I encourage you to keep up the good work at state police and apply again when you're eligible. So I vote to deny today.
Mrs. Ledoux.
Mr. Mingo, there is a purpose for the Miller ruling by the Supreme Court. It's amazing what 16-year-olds get involved in. There's so many positives. I have a grid that I work from that prioritizes public safety as number one. It's kind of like that's the pinnacle. After public safety, I consider everything else. Okay. Based on what I've heard of your rehabilitative process, I am not concerned about public safety with you. I don't believe you have served a very long time for this. You do have opposition, but your rehabilitative process has been great. Your conduct is great, and you do have good plans. So my vote today would be to grant with a lot of conditions placed upon you. Number one, that you would stay at least 6 months in the area of the Parole Project for intensive rehabilitative purposes and reintegration into society, because that's very important. You went away as a young man and the world has changed. So that would be one of my concerns, is that you would have that opportunity and that you go to Georgia for the remainder of your sentence, but knowing that you will be on supervision for life. Okay, so that's my vote to that. That's my vote to that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mingo, as I mentioned, I sat on your panel in 2022, and I think you've done really well since then. You've explained why you were not able to redo the victim awareness. Your attorney has given us the dates of completion for both victim awareness and the victim accountability letter program. I too am impressed with what you've done so far. I don't think there's anything else you can do except serve more time. I'm not sure what purpose that serves. I do respect the victim's position. They suffered great loss, but I'm impressed with the plan that's been put in place for you with the parole project, and then on to Georgia. So I would vote. It requires a unanimous vote, so the die has already been cast in your case. My vote would be to grant parole to the parole project transition plan, to do the victim listen and learn program prior to going to Georgia. But as mentioned, it requires a unanimous vote. So today, sir, your parole's been denied. Good luck to you, Mr. Mingo.
Okay, they denied. He needed a unanimous vote, right? And I don't know. I kind of feel bad for him. He's been in a long time, and it's interesting because we watch parole hearings from the other states, Connecticut, Utah, Iowa, and people do not do the kind of time that they do in Louisiana. I mean, we see people getting paroled left and right. He was 16 when he committed this senseless murder, and he's done all this great stuff in prison, but Louisiana, they just don't mess around. And what it was that the ADA said, I don't know if the ADA got it wrong or if it was passed through to them wrong and broken telephone, but he never did say that he was innocent, but he did appeal his verdict. Thank you, Sir Richard. And really what he appealed, he had different things to appeal. He appealed an illegal guilty verdict because I believe it was that it was a 10-2 jury verdict versus being unanimous. And I think that was, here it is. The defendant was convicted on second-degree red rum by a 10-2 verdict on April 18, 1996. As noted, he was resentenced to life sentence with the possibility of parole on March 19, 2019. That was because of the Miller hearing, because he was just 16. And the trial court granted the defendant an out-of-time appeal on June 9, 2020. The defendant contends, since his jury verdict was invalid, and since his conviction and resentencing were not final at the time of Ramos versus Louisiana, it was decided his conviction and sentence must be set aside. According to the defendant, the invalid verdict makes the sentence itself invalid. So that's what the DA was talking about, and not that he was claiming he was innocent. And it's interesting that even his own attorneys didn't bring that up, right? Isn't it interesting? Sir Richard's got this all on the spreadsheet, but everyone representing the case doesn't bring that up to the parole board. And there's no reason to go through that appeal anymore because it doesn't go into the facts of the crime. Also interesting that the ADA, he drove how long to go to the parole hearing last time on mistake, but doesn't show up this time. Is it a different ADA? That's possible. Maybe he just wanted to go for a nice drive last time. That's possible. Who knows? But no, it's not fair. It's not fair to take it away from any ADA that does show up, but I just don't understand why they wouldn't show up this time. And you know what else about not showing up? They're hosting this at LSU. There's a room, there's all these law students that are watching the parole process. I kind of find it funny. I'm like, law students, you can come here on Mandu and you can watch thousands of parole hearings. You can watch parole hearings that come, with you'll get much more out of it. I wonder how many actually know about Mandu. And if you do, say hello in the comment section. But I don't like this format. I don't like any format outside of the regular format. I actually prefer the COVID format when they're all just in their own video boxes. But they had mic problems and they have, and I hate the whole new format where we go through the the support first before they even get to the questions. It drives me nuts. It's bad. Louisiana, why did you change it? It's not good. It's not the good. You go through the process, then go through the victim stuff, right? And not even the victim stuff, the support stuff. And I was struggling. I'm like, do I forward it? Do I just cut through? But I kept it in there. You'll have to let me know what you prefer. I really wasn't sure what to do because there was some supporting comments, and I don't want to take away from the supporting family. I don't have animosity towards this man, Melvin Mingo. And, you don't hear from the victims themselves, right? And you don't hear, so it's hard for me to have that attachment. He's been there so long, 28 years or 20 since 96 would be 28, 29 years. He's 46. He's still young though. But it's like when you're 16 and you shoot someone, there is a little bit now. It's worth taking. You can argue one thing, take into account, but people are so dumb at 16, and you got to serve time. But he's also compared to, remember, Angola is huge. There are so many inmates, and we have seen the worst of the worst. We have seen those that don't deserve it. He's putting in the work. He got to give him credit for that. And as Mr. Nasa said, I don't think he'd be, a danger out there. He might struggle, need all the help, but he's got the support. He's got the help. So I don't know. You see, some people, they're right in the comment. I don't blame you. You say in the comments like, man, you don't want anyone to get paroled. Well, here's the time. I actually thought he should have gotten paroled. And I also want to point out that oftentimes you say, man, you don't want anyone to get paroled, but keep in mind that we don't show, we have thousands of parole hearings. We don't show the ones that are kind of routine. And the point of this channel is to show what we think are the injustices in the system. So it kind of just goes with the territory, if that makes sense. Anyways, that's it for the day. Thank you very much. And with that, I'll let you go.
What this defendant told police at that time was that I told him to quit wiggling and don't go into that house, and he kept wiggling. So I shot him, and he shot him through the chest, 130 caliber round through the chest. I know in today's world, victims are just an inconvenience, but not to me and not to these.